go to Mark in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good. The president wants to spy on 200 million Americans without a warrant. Has he read this document which he was sworn to uphold?
Now, I will not have you libel Abraham Lincoln.
I don't understand the problem with registering guns. We register cars. Every nation has the right to self-defense under the United Nations Charter. Why shouldn't Israel exercise it?
Meet Mark Levine.
Hello, America. Welcome to the Inside Scoop, where we discuss all the news the government does not want you to know. I've been thinking a lot about Proposition 8, the California proposition passed on Election Day by a narrow margin of California voters, by 52 to 48. Proposition 8 modifies Equal Protection Clause of the California Constitution. It says that equal protection under the law does not apply to gay Californians. It applies to straight Californians. Gay Californians can continue to get married, of course. They just can't get married to anyone with whom they can be sexually intimate with whom they are sexually attracted to. They are required to marry straight people or anyone else to whom they are not sexually attracted. I was thinking carefully about this. I was listening to the arguments of the gay activists and also of the opponents of the bill. And it made me think about a particular minority in America, a sinful minority, one that practices an unnatural act. Some would call it a perverted act. You see, in America, as in Europe, as in Roman times, it's been understood that there are a certain group of people that have a certain preference, a certain orientation, if you will. And some say they're born that way. Some say that it's a choice. It made me think about my own grandfather. My grandfather grew up in the 1920s in Louisiana. When my grandfather was born, he expressed a preference. All through school, he had an orientation. He wanted to do something that school authorities knew to be wrong, indeed knew to be sinful, knew to be inappropriate for modern society. He had this preference, he had this desire, he wanted to do things a certain way, but he was taught that it was wrong, that it was not the way to do things, that the great majority of Americans, indeed the great majority of human beings across the planet, didn't practice this sinful preference. And so he was taught that he should write with his right hand. See, my grandfather claimed to have a preference for the left hand. He claimed that he would prefer to write with his left hand. But we've long taught for many generations that the left hand is wrong. There's a reason why, etymologically, look it up, there's a reason why right means right. In Latin, the left is sinister. That's where we get the word sinister. It was understood that left-handed people, left-handed thoughts, left preference was an evil preference. It was a wrong preference. But right makes right. In fact, if you look at the language today, if you look at French, for example, you will see that those that are right, French, the word right in French is droit, spelled D-R-O-I-T. And right, as in English, right means right? The right hand means you're right, you're correct. The same is true in French. Droit means correct. It means right, as in right-handed. It means the law. The right hand is the law. And left is gauche. You may have heard that word. Another word for clumsy. Another word for clumsy is maladroit. Maladroit, bad right. If you're not right-handed, you're clumsy. Indeed, in Latin, dexter means right. And so for generations, ever since biblical times, ever since Roman times, church and state have come together to make clear that there is a right way, and that right way is the right hand. That the great majority of human beings are right-handed. Now there is, I admit, there is a small minority, no more than 10% of Americans, no more than 10% of human beings nationwide, and they prefer to write with their left hand. But the left hand is wrong. You can't write with your left hand. If you do, the ink smears when you go from left to right. In the Bible, you've seen Adam and Eve, and Eve and Adam. They always pick the apple with their right hand. Their expression is to be on the right hand of God. You never heard anyone want to be on the left hand of God. Right means right. Right makes right. My grandfather, despite whatever thing he claimed he was born with, whatever disease or perversion he claims he was born with, was forced to write with his right hand. And to his dying day, he was an ex-lefty. He did write with his right hand. Oh, he would eat and do other things with his left hand, even though he knew it was wrong. But he managed to put that sin away. He managed to recognize that right means right. Well, I want to know where our society's going. Today, there are people that believe that left-handed people are just the same as right-handed people. There are actually citizens who think that left-handed people should have the same equal rights under the law as right-handed people. I say no. Left-handedness is a perversion. It is unnatural. If you look at any statistic of human behavior, not just Americans, but worldwide, if you look throughout human history, the great majority of human beings prefer the right hand. It's natural. It's normal. You pick up a pen, you write, the ink doesn't smear. Utensils are made for the right hand, scissors, right? Even some computer instruments. People understand that right is normal, right is natural. So what do you do about these people with their southpaw agenda? You've heard, of course, southpaw is what the leftists call themselves, those that promote the left hand, that try to recruit others to join their left-handed lifestyle. What is the southpaw agenda? Southpaws, left-handed people, are trying to control the world. They're trying to take over. The new president-elect of the United States, Barack Obama, is a southpaw. His opponent, John McCain, was left-handed. Even Barack Obama's primary opponent, the main one in the Democratic primary, was left-handed. That's right. That's right. For those of you that doubt a conspiracy theory, how is it that the three last presidential candidates are all left-handed? If it affects even 10% of the population, 10% times 10% times 10%, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that this isn't a conspiracy. This is no coincidence. The left-handed people are trying to take over. And so I say we need a new proposition. We need to amend the state constitution of every one of the 50 states. We need to amend the federal constitution. And I propose, and I hope you'll join with me, Proposition 9. Proposition 9 would ban the marriage of left-handed people. It would only allow right people, normal people, those that are right, those that are right-handed, to marry. Now, some say this is discriminatory against left-handed people, but I disagree. Left-handedness is not some kind of genetic, innate thing. That's ridiculous. To be left-handed is a choice. And I'll prove it to you. Ask any left-handed person, can they pick up a pen with their right hand? And unless they're missing an arm, they can do it. Left-handed people choose to be left. They choose to be gauche. They choose to be maladroit. They choose to be sinister. Sinful. Sinister. They choose that sin. And it is our role as good Christians, as good Americans, to take left people out of their sin, to show them what is right. And right is right. You don't just have to take my word for it. Look at every single human, in every species. The great majority, 90%, favor their right hand, just as 90% are heterosexual in human species. But it's also throughout history. Even the Greeks allowed for some homosexuality, but the Greeks understood that right makes right. There's a reason we have this etymology. There's a reason why Shakespeare talked about the right and the sinister. Shakespeare, the Romans, the Greeks, the early Christians, and America, for most of our history, understood that right makes right. We are the majority. We right-handed people, we are the majority. And it would be very easy for us to simply pass our majority will. You put a proposition on the ballot in every state, or you amend the federal constitution, and you show these left-handed, perverse, unnatural people that right makes right. I want to give out the phone number, give you a chance to call in, find out if you agree with me. The toll-free number is 571-749-1166, or 888 is toll-free, 488-MARK, 888-488-6275. And I want you to think about what normal means, what abnormal means. Normal means it's the norm, right? Normal is what, I even said right just now. See, I did it without even thinking. Right, because right is right. Left is left out. 2 left feet. It's gauche. It's maladroit. Right makes right. And I want you to think about what normal means. To be right-handed is to be normal. To favor the left hand is abnormal. But that doesn't mean we can't love our left-handed humans, our fellow citizens who are left-handed. These are people in need of our love. And with our love, they can change. Just like my grandfather could change and become an ex-lefty. With enough pushing, we can force little children in schools to use their right hand. Now, there's some that will say, well, people in the privacy of their own home may start to use their left hand to write, may start to use their left hand to eat. I say, punish them. In the famous case of Bowers v. Hardwick, the United States Supreme Court said that we can use the moral authority of the government to go into people's private homes and control their sinful behavior. Now, it's true that it didn't often happen. And so all the gay activists and straight activists that complained the government has no right to determine whether or not married couples were having oral sex is sodomy. Virginia said no. We have the right to go into private houses and to tell married people not to do sinful things like commit oral sex. It's a felony. We can throw you in jail for many years. If the majority supports it, it is right. And indeed, isn't that the lesson we're learning from California? That the majority is always right? What are courts intervening to protect from the majority? The majority is always right. And in this case, we, right-handed people, we're the majority. We can easily vote 90% to 10% to ban left marriage. Now, I know there are some right-handed people who are sympathetic to left-handed people. They think that left-handed people should get married too. I know that you left lovers exist. But we could still win a majority. I mean, we don't need 90%. All we need is 52%, and we can take away left marriages. Now, there are some complexities here that we'll need to discuss, right? There are mixed marriages between left and right people. And then, of course, there are people that are solely left, right? What do we do about those people? I'll get to that in just a minute, because I know it's a difficult question. I think I can answer it for you. First, I do have a caller on the line. Do we still have that caller? We lost the caller. All right, then let's explain. Oh, the caller's on hold. We will get to the caller. Let me explain to you what we're going to do about left and right marriages. First, we have the distinction to what I call a left marriage. A left marriage would be people that both claim to be living the left lifestyle. Okay? And then we would have mixed marriages between left and right. We have to remember that if left is a genetic malfunction, a disease, some kind of screwed up gene that makes people favor the left hand, that this gene may be passed on if left-handed people marry left-handed people. And so what we have to know is whether or not to allow that propagation to continue. Apparently I have a caller. Why don't we allow the caller to go through? Are they no longer there? That's too bad. Caller, call back. Let's talk about it on the air. Because I'm open to debate. I'm open to discussion, just as I am about Proposition 8. If you think that this is improper, the caller wanted to know if it's real. Want to know if this is real? In California, a majority of the people said that they can ban marriage. Of course a majority can ban marriage. It's obvious, right? We banned marriages between blacks and whites for 100 years. Slaves could only get married if they could have these little commitment ceremonies, but they weren't taken seriously. Of course this is real. Toll free, 888-488-MARK. We'll get back because I want to talk about these left marriages and mixed left-right marriages. 888-488-6275. We'll be right back after this.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about rigged out fighting. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
Here again, the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. There is a little talked about minority among us that practice a behavior so perverse, so unnatural, that it affects no more than 10% of the population. Now, it is something that people can be trained not to do, but it is something that has been recognized as sin throughout human cultures and throughout human history. Even William Shakespeare called it sinister, from the Latin, for the etymological root of this word. The French called it gauche, maladroit. They recognize that there's a right behavior and a wrong behavior, and these people practice wrong behavior. In Japan, it is considered extremely ill-mannered to practice this behavior. So it's not just a Western one. And these people, I don't know what word to use for them, activists, shall we say, want to promote the idea that they should be able to practice their perversion in America, in American homes, that they should be able to go anywhere and do things in our faces, not even behind closed doors. We talked about the fact that we can use the law to punish these people behind closed doors, but they want to do it actively. They want to marry each other. They want to marry each other and propagate this behavior among children as if it's normal, as if it's natural. They want teachers in our schools to teach children as young as 5 or 6 that this is normal, natural behavior, when every species recognizes it as an unnatural perversion. I'm talking, of course, about left-handedness. The idea that some people prefer their left hand to write, when writing should be with the right hand. There's a reason they call it writing. The left hand is sinister, it is sinful, it is wrong. And you don't just have to take my word for it. Look at all of Western culture, right? Sinister comes from the word for left. And 100 years ago, left-handed people knew their place. Kids were taught to use the right hand, and if they didn't use the correct hand, they were beaten. Right means correct, right means right. So what are we to do? Today we have presidential candidates who claim to be left-handed. We have marriages between left-handed people and left-handed people. Look, same-sex couples, that's one thing. Most of them don't propagate, and if they do, they don't tend to do it within their couplehood, right? Except for maybe the pregnant man, they usually adopt a child. But in the case of left marriages, you have left marrying and propagating children, and let's face it, whether it's genetic or environmental, either way, it's likely to promote leftism. Now, what is leftism, do you say? What is this? You may have never heard of this unnatural perversion. If you're like me, you're normal, right? You use your right hand, you write with it, you eat with it, you point with it. You can use your left hand to help your right hand. It's the helper hand. I mean, that's okay. But you use primarily your right hand. And when you write from left to right, the ink doesn't smear. Now, I know what some of you are saying. What about in Hebrew? In Hebrew, they write from right to left. I'm not talking about Hebrew. I'm talking about real Americans and real language and the English language that is the foundation of American civilization. Latin, the foundation of Western civilization. Latin is written left to right. French, Spanish, German, all written from left to right. So don't give me that pesky Hebrew nonsense. We drive on the right-hand side of the road. Now, I know there are people, well, the British drive on the left-hand side of the road. They're British. What do you expect? I'm talking about real Americans. And more than 90% of real Americans are right-handed. They know that right makes right. So Proposition 9, which I propose, we'll put on the ballot. We will say that only marriage between right people is normal and accepted. And people will say, what about people who are left, who favor the left hand, who want to practice their unnatural perversion? They're Americans too. They deserve freedom. Look, if they want to have commitment ceremonies, civil lefty unions, they can have those. Slaves, for example, when there was slavery, they couldn't get married in a way the state recognized, but they could have their little commitment ceremonies. I mean, the master could still trade the slave away. It wasn't protected under the law, but they could pretend to be married. There are gay couples that pretend to be married in states like Virginia. And the lefties can pretend to be married too, but their rights won't be taken seriously under law. And what that does is it helps to prevent left propagation. We don't want these people teaching our children. Imagine, for example, you have a normal right-handed kid, and they go to class, and their teacher writes with their left hand on the board. Their teacher suggests that writing with the left hand is normal, natural, a human variation instead of what we know it to be, a perversion, an unnatural abnormality, much as you might think of alcoholism or being deformed or blind or deaf. We understand it to be abnormal. But let's say you have a teacher, and the teacher teaches a kid, oh, you can use your left hand too. And the kid, who may have some, predisposition to be left-handed, maybe even has a left-handed parent, starts using their left hand to write. Think about how hard life is for that child. I mean, how are they going to use scissors? How are they going to use most power tools? How will they recognize what every human being understands, that a screwdriver, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey? We have more strength with our right hand because we turn to the right. And now we are raising a generation of children to use their left hand. I'll tell you, these are statistics. I'm not making this up, folks. They did statistics in the 1920s, and they found that maybe 1% of the population expressed a preference for their left hand. Today, it's pushing 10%. 10 times. And people say, there's no left agenda. Of course there is. There's a left agenda to teach people in our schools that being left is natural and normal. It's not natural. It's not normal. There's a reason why most human beings are right-handed. It's because God wants it that way. It's because evolution wants it that way. I'm not making a distinction between evolution and creationism. But there's a reason why every human culture considers left being unnatural. And it's time that we use our power of the majority that we have to require these left people to follow the right way. Now, some will say they can't change. You've heard these arguments before. We were born left. You weren't born left. You weren't born left. Unless you have no right arm, you can write with your right hand. You can eat with your right hand. So what are we to do about the marriages? Well, okay, if we have left-left marriages, we can allow people to have these commitment ceremonies, these lefty unions. We won't recognize them with force of law, and there's a reason for that, because we can't have lefties raising children. If a lefty raises a child, the child will recognize this unnatural behavior as normal. They might, too, use their left hand. And I'm told lefties recruit. I'm told that lefties try to get others to join in their unnatural perversion. But if we make it clear as a society that this is wrong, and we make sure that lefties can't marry, then we can make sure that everyone has the right teacher teaching them the right behavior. And isn't that what America is all about? Using majorities to control the minority, to make the minority do the right thing, to teach moral agenda. Whoever said America can't teach morality? Ask Jerry Falwell. Ask James Dobson. Teaching morality is part of the Judeo-Christian ethic that began this country. We have every right as a majority to control the unnatural perversions of the minority. Now, some of you will say, what about mixed marriages? What about left-right marriages? What about, let's face it, our president-elect, Barack Obama? Now, every indication is that Michelle Obama is normal. She uses her right hand. She's a normal human being. Obama practices the perversion. He appears to favor his left. We will require the couple to get divorced. But I have to say, they should have thought of that before they married each other, right? They took that on themselves. It's their fault. They should have known this was wrong. Have they not studied Western civilization? Have they not studied Japanese culture? Do they not know the etymology of words like right and left, right and sinister, droit and maladroit? Who will raise the children? Well, obviously it has to be Michelle. We need a right person to teach the children. If the children learn that left means right, then they won't know anything. How can left mean right? How can left be right? How can black be white? These are impossible things. And yet the Southpaws would have us feel that their agenda is to be treated just like any other human being. Come on. You know it's not true. We are protecting children from themselves. We're protecting them so that when they grow up in the world, they'll be able to use the right tools for the right functions. They'll be able to drive cars on the right-hand side of the road. They'll be able to use machinery with the right hand. You know, there are some that say, and I've seen this in education, that we should have left-handed desks as well as right-handed desks. Have you ever sat on a left-handed desk? How do you write like that? You can't write anywhere. Left-handed desks persecute those of us who are right and normal. Left-handed desks and left-handed machinery persecutes the great majority of us that don't practice this sin. The only way to stop it is to stop it now. And the sad thing is it's already gotten out of control. It has. 100 years ago, people understood right makes right. They hardly understand it today. There are people that you may not even know are left-handed. You may not even have known that Barack Obama was left-handed. You may have just heard that he's black. Well, skin color doesn't affect function. You can do whatever you want, black or white, but left-handedness affects function. Let's say he's got to dial that phone. He has to use the nuclear football. He has to use the codes. And what if it's on the right-hand side, as it should be, because that is the normal, natural function of human beings. So now he's got to use his left hand, and he pushes the wrong button. Nuclear explosion. It's a real danger, and it's one that we have to take seriously. So I urge you to support Proposition 9. We're going to put it on the ballot, and vote the majority. Okay, now you may say, well, I've got family members that favor the left. When we come back after break, I'm going to talk about how you can train your family member to be an ex-lefty. Sometimes it takes prayer. Sometimes it takes a lot of work. But we can prevent this so-called orientation. It's not an orientation. It's not a preference. It's a choice. And every left-handed person can switch, pick up the pen with their right hand. We can do it, America. It just requires courage and determination. And if you agree or disagree, let me know. 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. We'll be right back after this.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry?
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those? Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
Here again, the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. Ever since I've talked about the Proposition 9 that I proposed that would ban marriage among a certain small minority of people that practice this unnatural preference or orientation, I've been accused of being a bigot. I've been accused of not wanting equality for all Americans. And let me say this. I know, I hear what you say. Oh, these people, they're so creative. They do all kinds of good things for society. I have one that's a florist. I have one that's a hairdresser. I've heard these things before. The point is, people that have this preference, people that make this choice, they need our help. And they can't function well in our society. Look at the issue of sports, right? We have people, these so-called southpaws, that want to practice baseball. That's not fair to normal people who hit with their right hand. Right? They want to go boxing where they're stronger with the left hand. That's not fair to normal people. They want to do dances where they favor one foot. Look, it will be easier if we stamp out this behavior now and to show our love for these sinful people by helping teach them that God does not want them to be left. God wants people to be right. So what would my Proposition 9 do? It would take marriages of lefts, and it would say, you can have your commitment ceremony, you can even have what we call a civil union, but you can't have the same rights that right people have. Things like Social Security and health care and all the normal rights that normal functioning human beings have. You know, you can have your little, I don't know, Lefties Anonymous, right? You can meet and you can try, we can heal your perversion. And there are self-help numbers you can call. There are churches that are willing to help you now. All you do is take it one step at a time. Like an alcoholic, you put down that first drink. All you do if you claim to be a southpaw or a left-handed, you followed that choice, put your left hand down, pick up a pen with your right hand, and start to write. Now, it may be difficult for some of you, but it is a learned behavior. Some people will say left-handedness is genetic. That's ridiculous. Left-handed people can use their right hand. They just have to learn, and with prayer and with love and with church teaching, we can help you out of this destructive behavior. And then you can be a normal functioning human being. You can use scissors like other people. You can use tools like other people. You can use screwdrivers. You can twist jars normally. You can play sports normally. And let's face it, that's what democracy is about, right? Democracy means, if it means anything at all, democracy means that the majority can vote whatever it wants. I heard this with Proposition 8. Oh, gay people want equal rights. No, they don't get equal rights, not if the majority says so. And the great majority of people are right-handed. Let's go to Mike from Centerville. Mike, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Mark, you have it all wrong. It's not left-handers who are going to destroy America. It's the Cowboy fans. Go Redskins. It's the Cowboys that are the root of all evil in this country.
The Cowboys?
Look, George Bush was a Cowboy fan. Need I say more?
Mike, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm being serious here. I mean, using the left hand is an unnatural perversion. This isn't some sports team that we're talking about here. This is something that's been recognized in every civilization from the beginning of time. Western civilization, Japanese civilization. There's a reason why we have words like sinister. Sinister means left. And you want to allow these people to teach our children?
No, I just don't want to let the Cowboy fans teach our children.
Well, you know, that's just a sports metaphor. I want to talk about something serious because these people are in every walk of life. They're marching in parades, and they are defending, they're pretending that they are the same kind of human beings as you and me, and we have to prevent them. But I want to thank you for your call. I appreciate that. Let me go to Sophie from UVA. Sophie, welcome to the Inside Scoop. Do we have Sophie here? Do we have Sophie? All right, well, while we're waiting on Sophie, let me explain what we do with the marriages, because I know there are people that talk about the children, right? And I do. I worry about the children. I mean, I don't want, do you want a child raised by someone that has this perversion, that uses this wrong hand? I don't think so. So what we can do is we can take children out of these families, put them in foster homes, and look until they can be adopted by right people. Okay, we now have Sophie. Sophie, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Thank you. I really have to take great exception to what you're saying. I don't think I've always been born a left-handed person, but the way you're going about this whole conversation is quite offensive. You have to leave room for people coming to terms with their left-handedness, growing into it. I mean, after all...
Wait a minute. So Sophie, you're one of these leftists, these left people, right?
But you can't call it the perversion that it is.
It's clearly unnatural. I mean, you look at the Adam and Eve, right? They didn't use their left hands. Human beings were meant to be right-handed. It's in the Bible. It's in Western culture.
But there were only the two of them. Seriously now. I mean, a lot of people in my social circles, they come to their left-handedness. I'm at the University of Virginia, and, well, what else is a woman to do?
Well, I don't understand. Look, the right hand is the natural human hand. Left is unnatural. You know we can help you, Sophie. You can be trained to use your right hand just as my grandfather was some 80 years ago.
But I do have to admit, every other boy that I meet in the bar wants to witness the left-handed experience. It is the going trend.
Now that's just sick. That's just sick, Sophie. I don't know that we should be talking about that kind of stuff on the show.
You have to be able to leave room for natural experimentation and figuring out who you are as a person.
Okay, all right, I understand that, Sophie. I do, but should we let these perverts marry? Okay, it's one thing. I understand people experiment, people make mistakes. But if we let them marry and propagate, they may teach their children that being left-handed is okay.
Well, how do you know who you are unless you do that experimentation? And you may find the love of your life through it.
But it's the part of the state to require people to learn morality. That is what the state function is. So look, if people want to use their left hand behind closed doors, all right, most of the time the police won't jump into your homes. I mean, it's very rare that they actually have cameras watching you. When they do, yes, it's a felony. But otherwise, we're not usually going to come into people's homes. Right? We just don't want you to be left in public. It's kind of a don't ask, don't tell thing. What people do in the privacy of their own homes, I might even be willing to let it go. Some in my movement would not. Some of my movement insists it should be a felony. But many of us think, you know what, if you do it in the privacy of your own homes, if you don't pretend to get married, if you don't pretend to teach it to your children, I'm not gonna stop you. But what about people, Sophie, seriously, there are people that come out in society and in public, they will write with their left hand. There are teachers, Sophie, who will use chalk with their left hand. What are they teaching our children?
And the teachers give out the left-handed scissors. I mean, where else do you think they're learning it?
That is the problem with public schools in America today. That's why we need more religious schools. You wouldn't find a religious school allowing that kind of behavior.
Well, I mean, my father was taught by nuns and was slapped every time he picked up a pencil with the left hand.
Exactly. Nuns understood.
But wait
Western
a second.
culture.
I think they've kind of moved away from the whole slapping and the whole left-handed thing.
I think we have, and I think it's a problem.
So it's the Christian church that's actually allowing for the natural progression of one's left-handedness?
Well, not my Christian church, and not most Christian churches. I think most of them understand Western civilization. I mean, it's not just Christianity.
So we should go back to
talked about
punishment.
Japan.
We should start slapping the children again.
Well, absolutely. How else are they going to learn? Corporal punishment, spare the rod, spoil the child. We have not punish children enough. If they think it's okay, they'll keep doing it.
Well, I think they're going to learn it one way or another.
No. They will never learn about it if we don't expose them to these sinful people. Look, for example, there are some leftist activists that want to teach children as young as 5 or 6 that using the left hand is some kind of natural condition. Here it is, 90% of Americans recognize it as wrong. They use their right hand. And yet they want to teach this despicable minority wants to teach 5- and 6-year-olds?
Well, I guess it's a downfall of our higher education because I'll tell you, it's going on.
I know it's going on. And with Proposition 9, Sophie, you and I can stop this. You and I can work together. We don't need 90%. Remember, 90% of Americans are right-handed. We don't even need 90%. We don't need 80%. In California, you don't even need 2/3. A simple majority of the population can impose its will on the minority. It's terrific. The Mississippi did it with Jim Crow. A majority of Mississippians said that black people shouldn't have equal rights. Majority rules. That's what democracy is all about.
Well, I don't know if I can agree with you. I think people should come to their own terms with their left-handedness.
Their own terms? What kind of terms?
Understanding who they are as a person.
What do you mean? You think left-handed defines who you are as a person? Left-handed is a behavior.
I think it actually is a great deal of part of your identity.
Your identity?
Yes, absolutely. It's how you view yourself. You view the world in, a complete social context.
Sophie, you're an ex-lefty, right?
I'm sliding a little bit.
You're sliding, so you still practice some of this behavior on the side.
I was brought up in a Catholic church. What can I say? They still preach about the right-handed, values.
But you're telling me you might use your left hand in private?
Well, I don't necessarily try to hide it, but there's been a time or two.
I mean, why would you expose? You're just a college student, right? So you don't have any children.
No children.
Well, I know that people experiment in college. There are numbers. There are churches that can help save you, Sophie, that can help teach you the right hand of God. Have you tried some of these self-help? Because there are ex-lefties, there are movements.
I've heard about electroshock therapy.
Right.
I mean, is that an option?
That I've heard that does wonders sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
really
have to look
think
into that.
You should try it. Here's the thing. Look, people sin. I mean, I do. I love you, Sophie. I do. I love you as a human being. I recognize that you sin. And I recognize that sometimes, maybe without even thinking, you might use your left hand when you know it's wrong. But people can be redeemed. I believe in redemption. Hate the sin, love the sinner. You see? So I think we can love you, Sophie, as long as you put away your sin. Then you can join the normal humanity. And the great part, it's not just humans in America. It's humans all over the world. Every single culture in the world favors their right hand. So you can join with the majority of humanity, and we can be as one.
It does make trying to find another left-hander a little bit hard.
Well, that's another thing, right?
If
you define yourself as a left-hander, if you let that take over your identity, then that puts you in this small minority of the population, exactly, that may have trouble mating. And do you want that for your children? I mean, do you want your children to grow up and be scorned as some kind of minority? There's anti-left prejudice out there, not from my church, but from others who teach. And look, they understand. I mean, we know that being left is a sin, so they teach that it's a sin, and children suffer from such behavior, right?
Are they more likely to have the same behaviors? Is there a greater propensity for them to pick up the left-handed tendencies?
Well, I think it's been shown that, yes, there are more left-handed kids from left-handed marriages. Wow. I think if we get rid of left-handed marriages, then we will have less southpaw kids. And because, look, I don't know whether it's genetic or environmental. My church teaches it's a choice. Some scientists claim it's genetic. But whatever it is, it's a behavior. That's the crucial thing. Being left is a behavior. It's a sin. It's not an orientation, as some of the activists would say. It is a choice. And if you teach people not to have that choice, if you teach children that it's wrong, it can be like my grandfather. I admit it. My grandfather at age 5 or 6 started to practice this sinful behavior. And he was forced. Like you said, hit the hand. He was forced to use his right hand. And in doing so, he became, like so many Americans of his generation, part of the ex-lefties. And he recognized it was wrong behavior.
Well, I guess if my mother was ambidextrous and my father was a left-hander, no wonder I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds like a very whacked out. Must be one of those hippie households, huh?
Yeah, there was some herbal remedies.
Yeah. Were they from San Francisco?
Yeah, well, definitely on the coast.
Yeah, I mean, you got a left and an ambidextrous. That sounds pretty whacked out there.
Hey, I
believe in salvation for all, Sophie. Really, I want to make this clear. Salvation for all. We can redeem the left. We can make them right. We can make them normal. But we have to make sure they don't have equal rights. Because if you give them equal rights, people will think they're just the same as every other human being. We'll be right back with more on my Proposition 9. If you want to call in, the number is 571-749-1166 or 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. We'll be right back after this.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
Here again, the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. Marriage is in trouble in America. I don't have to tell you that. Increasingly, we have children being born out of wedlock. Even the daughter of a vice presidential candidate is pregnant without being married. Increasingly in African American communities, you find that a lot of children are born to single mothers. The President of the United States, the upcoming president, was born of a single mother. Bill Clinton was born of a single mother. Marriage is in trouble. And there's a reason why marriage is in trouble. There's a reason why divorces are on the upswing. There's a reason why it's so hard for people to stay married. It's because we don't protect the sanctity of marriage. We don't respect marriage anymore. We let anyone get married. Yes, we even let people who practice a perverted, unnatural lifestyle to get married as if they were normal. I'm talking, of course, about the southpaw. The southpaw, the left-hander, those unnatural people that don't form the majority of human beings, but practice the sinister hand, that use the left hand as if it were as good as the right, when we know from human history, from Western civilization, from the church, from even Japanese civilization, that left is wrong and right is right. I'm not making this up. You don't believe me? Look up your history books. Some of you have been so trained by the leftist agenda, you may not even know the history. You may not even know that sinister means left. Sinister. Sinister is a word of wickedness. It means left. You may not know that dexter, dexterous, means right. This is from the Latin. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. And because left-handed people are getting married as if they were normal, as if they are right, more and more children are being taught the left agenda. They're being taught that left means right. And then you ask yourself, why are there hurricanes on the Gulf Coast? God is angry. He's angry because we're allowing these perverted, unnatural people, these left people, to get married. I mean, it's not just gay people that want to get married. Left-handed people have been getting married for almost a century now, possibly even longer, sometimes right under our own noses. I understand we have a caller on the line, Javier from Fairfax. Welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Hi. I'm just curious. Are you really serious?
What do you mean?
Like, you honestly believe like left-handed people are sinners?
Well, that's Western civilization. Javier has taught this for generations. I mean, you sound young. You may not have known about this practice, but well into the early 20th century, children were taught they have to use their right hand, not their left hand. This is not something new I'm making up. Sinister does mean left. Look it up.
Okay, so you think all these left people are perverted, right?
They're unnatural. There's a reason why the majority is right-handed.
Okay. Because I mean, this seems kind of crazy to me.
Why?
I don't really see them as I don't know.
They're unnatural. Normal people are you right-handed or are you left-handed, Javier?
I'm right-handed, but
okay.
A person born with I don't know, a certain kind of disability is unnatural too. But I'm not gonna.
Well, I agree, it's a disability. I accept that. It's like alcoholism or being blind or being deaf. But people can be taught. For example, dyslexia, right? You can teach people not to be dyslexic. You can teach a left-hander to use their right hand. In fact, 100 years ago, virtually everyone born with this malediction was taught to use the right hand.
I want to keep with that.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so, but you're just not really hitting me here as these left-handed people as major sinners. I mean,
well, it's taught. It used to be taught in every church. Now, I realize that churches today are becoming more and more liberal. They're following the liberal elite. They're reading things like the New York Times. Fewer and fewer churches are persecuting left-handed people, but that doesn't make it right. Just because, the liberal elites say it's right, that doesn't make it right. Right is right.
Do you think these left-handed people pose a threat besides...
Sure they do.
Besides morally?
Do you want them teaching your children? Do you want your children to grow up thinking that they can use machinery the same way if they're left-handed or right-handed? You can't. There are scissors. Most scissors are for right-handed people. When you drive a car, it's on the right-hand side of the road. If you write with your left hand, the ink smears. It's an unnatural perversion, and we can teach people no longer to be left-handed.
Okay.
Javier, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you support the right of gay people to get married?
Excuse me?
Do you support the right of gay people to get married?
Actually, I oppose that.
You oppose that?
Yes.
Why? I mean, there's nothing... What's the difference between being gay and left-handed? You think left-handed people should get married, even though they practice an unnatural perversion, but gay people shouldn't? I'm confused. What's the difference?
Okay, well, it's a man and a man, not a man and a woman.
Right, and a left is a left and not a right is a right.
I know, but this is a more serious basis. Like,
what's more serious?
You think trying to prosecute left-handed people is gonna solve the problems in the world?
It won't solve all the problems in the world, but it's a start. If we enforce morality now, it'll be a start. Do you think that preventing gay people from marrying will solve all the problems in the world? No.
No, but it's an important morality issue, and I think this...
well, but so is this. Javier, it's not just Western civilization. In Japan, if you eat chopsticks with your left hand, you are shunned. We have to teach our children to be ready for the 21st century.
We're not Japanese, man.
We're American. And in America, they used to be taught, I'm not making this up, 100 years ago, you would be slapped on the hand if you used the wrong hand.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, here there's so many different people from so many different cultures. I mean, there's so many things going on. I don't think people are going to care if their son or the neighbor is going to be left-handed or not.
They won't care? But they can't live in normal, natural society.
Actually, I'm pretty sure there's some left-handed people, like, in my school, but
Listen, there are probably gay people in your school, but you would deny them the right to marry, right?
Yeah.
If you can deny them the right to marry, you can deny left-handed people the right to marry. These are unnatural minorities, and they should be stamped out. Look, I'm not saying kill them. I'm just saying don't allow them to teach our children that being left-handed is okay. That's what gay people want to do, and it's wrong too, isn't it?
Yeah, but still, the seriousness of each problem, I think, is far...
What's the difference?
Is just...
All right, I'm going to go to another caller. Javier, I want you to think about what the difference is, because I don't see it. And if you think about it, you write it on my website at radioinsidescoop.com. Let's go to Nancy in Stafford County. Nancy, welcome to the show. Nancy, are you there? We're switching phones here. Let's go to Nancy in Stafford County. Nancy, welcome to the Inside Scoop. Oh, okay. Well, we don't have Nancy yet. When we get her, I definitely want to talk with her as well. Javier tries to make a distinction between left-handed people and gay people, but I don't really see the distinction. I mean, gay people don't usually propagate, right? They don't usually give birth to gay people. They give birth to straight people. But left-handed people are known to have more likely to have left-handed children. They are more of a threat to our society than gay people. They are a minority. We can stamp them out. And I'm not saying kill them. I'm just saying teach our children that right means right and left is wrong. Oh, we don't have Nancy anymore. Okay. All right. That's too bad. I got rid of Javier so we could get to Nancy, and we lost her. Let me just, you're still welcome to call in. There's a little bit more time. 888-488-MARK, 488-6275 or 571-749-1166. Let me just wrap this up by saying this. California voters decided by a simple majority, 52-48, that gay couples couldn't marry. And they decided they couldn't marry for the same reasons that I proposed about left-handed people. All right? They've decided that the majority determines morality. Californians decided they could take two people they don't even know and destroy their marriages, take their children away from them, as they did in Arkansas and Florida, because they are different. Californians understood that being gay is like being left-handed. It is something that is not usual. It is something that only affects a minority. Yes, it's in every human species. But who is to say that just because something is a variation that makes it normal? A minority is by definition wrong. If you were right, you would be in the majority. Right makes right. And in a democracy, you have every right to punish a minority. Now, California said no. The California court said no. Californians have equal protection under the laws. They said you have to treat gay people like straight people, and left-handed people like right-handed people, and blacks like whites. And once you do all that, where are we? What's left for democracy? If the majority can't punish a minority, what is left for democracy? You would think that the Constitution, that there's some that would argue the Constitution prevents a democratic majority from doing their will. That's ridiculous. The majority is always right. Just as in the 1960s, in Jim Crow laws, the majority of Mississippians said, blacks can't vote. That's democracy in action. And blacks got mad. They said, no, we think we should vote too. Why? To treat blacks, to give them equal rights, would be like treating left-handed people and right-handed people the same. It'd be like treating gay people and straight people the same. It'd be like treating all Americans the same. And does that make any sense? I mean, it would be as if someone wrote in some founding document that all men are created equal, or all women and men are created equal. It's ridiculous. Thomas Jefferson didn't include women in that. He didn't include black slaves in that. He didn't include gay people in that. He didn't include Jews in that. White Christian men owning property with right hands. They are the only people that should have rights in America. And if the majority continues to vote the way they did in California's Proposition 8, I am confident that we can establish the same kind of hierarchy as exists in India, where we have a caste system, where straight, white, Christian men that own property are on top, and if you don't fit any of those categories, you're not a real American. That is the message of Proposition 8. So if you, like Javier from Fairfax, support denying gay people marriage, I ask you to join with me in my campaign to make sure that those leftists, those gauche, those maladroit, those sinister, those that use the left hand, those unnatural people are punished the same way. Because as Martin Niemöller once said, if we stand up for one, we have to stand up for the other. And is that really what America's all about? I don't know. If you want to comment on my show today, go to my website, radioinsidescoop.com. I want to hear from you, radioinsidescoop.com. This is Mark Levine, signing off.